Coming to you from deep inside the bowels of a great big empty. Get ready for another episode of The Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
Hello, American families. Welcome to this week's episode of the Home Defense Show. I'm your host, Skip Coryell. And if you love your family, care about them deeply, and want to learn how to protect them in every facet of your life, then you've come to the right place. Oh, we've got a really good show this week. We're going to have, in segments 2 and 3, Barry County Sheriff Dar Leaf of Michigan. And he is putting on a special church safety summit. The second one, he did one last year, and he's doing another one February 16 of this year. Going to provide some free, very valuable, and good training to the community. So you'll want to hear segments 2 and 3, Sheriff Dar Leaf. What have I been up to? I have been writing like a fool. I've just been writing like crazy. I'm up to almost, I think about page 150 in this new novel. You know, started out to be a romance. Now it's like a romance that a man would write. Okay, if that makes any sense at all. I think probably a man's idea of romance is probably a lot different than a woman's idea of romance. And my wife can verify that for you, but because she's reading it as I write it. But having a good time with that. I was just outside here, looking for my two boys. Cedar is 12 and Phoenix is 9. I wanted to know where they were because I hadn't seen them in about 10 minutes. And so I go down to the bottom of the hill and I'm calling for them and I can't find them. And then I hear the sound of sticks hitting trees and things like that. And I thought, well, that must be them. So I'm walking down the trail and I get down to the bridge and I see Phoenix and Cedar. They're dressed in combat gear. And they're holding fighting sticks. These are staffs that they both made, custom tailor-made to their size and weight. I think Cedar's was made out of cherry and Phoenix's was made out of ash. And they're practicing their fighting moves with wooden sticks. And and I remember like a half hour before that, Cedar had come in and I was getting ready to do the show and he says, "Dad, do you mind if we borrow your body armor?" And I said, "What for?" Because you never know with kids, boys will be boys. And I said, "Well, what are you going to use it for?" He says, "Well, we want to use it when we're practicing our fighting so that, we don't get hurt so bad." And I said, "Son, not the body armor, okay? I don't want you beating sticks on my body armor because..." And his reasoning was, "Well, Dad, it'll stop a bullet. Why won't it, protect from sticks?" I said, "Well, it probably will, but you might break down the fibers, and it can't be good for body armor to beat it with cherry and ash sticks." So I said, "Take the tactical vest instead." So they took tactical vests and they were out there practicing away, just having a really good time with that. And, I love it when they do that kind of stuff. I think if nothing else, it creates a warrior mindset in their mind. Because the one thing America needs right now more than anything else is warriors. Because we don't have any warriors right now. I was reading a article just a few days ago where they quoted a Chinese high-ranking general. And he made the statement that we don't need to worry about America anymore. We can go ahead, we can take Taiwan, and America will do nothing because they've lost their fighting spirit. All they care about is electronic devices, YouTube, comfort, safety, and they no longer have the stomach to fight. And you know what? When I look around my society, I have to agree with him. I hate to agree with him, but the America of today is not the America of 50 years ago. This generation that we have now, boy, I don't think we could turn back Nazi Germany or imperialist Japan with the young people that we're creating right now. You know, Dar and I, we talk about that a little bit in segments 2 and 3. You know, what's causing these mass shootings? What made our culture the way it is right now? And, you know, it scares me that this Chinese general hit the nail on the head. I don't think the vast majority of our young people have a fighting warrior spirit. They do not have the will, the resolve, the strength of character, the patriotism. They don't have any of that. They're a bunch of snowflakes. I know I'm generalizing, and I'm going to get emails saying, oh, yeah, my son, he's a Special Forces guy. Well, I'm not talking about him, obviously. I'm talking about the guy, you know, that's 33 years old, living in his mom's basement, you know, playing video games. There are more of them than there are Special Forces guys. So that's what I'm talking about. And Dar and I, we talk about that a little bit. But I like seeing my boys do things like that. I don't want to raise a bunch of snowflakes. I want to raise warriors. Even my 7-year-old daughter, I think she's got more fighting spirit than half the population of America right now. I'm proud of that. But we need more. We just need more. We always need more good warriors who are willing to stand up and fight for what's right. All right. You know, there is, rather than dive into the news, there is an article that I ran across. One of you guys, I want to thank Bill for sending me this. You know, you all remember the Philando Castile shooting. It's when a Minnesota police officer pulled over a concealed carry holder and ended up shooting him like 5-6 times, and he died. And there was video. It was on video. Terrible, terrible tragedy. But I thought, you know what? Let's talk about this. It's hard to talk about. It's hard to watch the video. The video I have is over 10 minutes long, and it shows the anguish of the people in the car, the civilians, and it also shows the anguish of the police officer after he killed the man. You know, I have no doubt he killed an innocent man. But anyways, this is written by Greg Ellifritz. This is an article posted June 22, 2017. I know that's old, but I think this is a video that's going to be watched for decades to come, certainly used in law enforcement training, as well it should. It says, the Philando Castile shooting and some advice for my cop readers. This week, a Minnesota jury acquitted Officer Geronimo Yanez in the shooting death of motorist Philando Castile. This was a controversial police shooting that probably didn't have to happen. I think he's right. I think it most definitely did not have to happen, shouldn't have happened. I would encourage all of you to watch the recently released dash cam footage of the shooting if you have not done so. Watch the whole incident. It's tragic. It will be hard for you to watch. There'll be all kinds of emotions churning up in you. Boy, you'll be hating police officers. So be careful. Be careful when you're watching this and what you take away from it. Because 99.9% of police officers don't do stuff like this, okay? So just remember that when you're watching this video. My take on the shooting is that both the officer and the motorist made some mistakes. Having researched the case, I don't believe that Philando Castile was actually reaching for his concealed carry pistol. No, I agree. I agree with that. I mean, I watched the video and I've read things about it, and it just doesn't make any sense that he would be reaching for his pistol after he's told the police officer that he's had a gun. You know, if a civilian is going to shoot a police officer, he's not going to say, okay, I have a gun and I'm going to get it now and I'm going to shoot you. That's not the way police shootings occur. But this particular police officer didn't seem to be able to distinguish. from that. He reacted based on fear. He did, however, tell the officer he was armed and make a hand movement consistent with drawing a concealed firearm. It's also consistent with drawing a wallet. Those of you with CCW permits should know to be extra careful and avoid making any motions that a poorly trained officer could construe as being threatening. Mr. Castile failed to exercise this type of caution and was shot by the cop as a result. He made a mistake, but in my mind that mistake should not carry a death penalty as the consequence. I agree. The bigger mistake, in my opinion, was made by Officer Yanez. I agree. That was a bigger mistake, and it resulted in the death of an innocent person. He appeared to panic when confronted by the fact that the driver he stopped was armed and didn't seem to be paying proper attention to his verbal commands. He probably didn't need to shoot Mr. Castile. He definitely didn't need to shoot him, and he shouldn't have. But I feel reasonably certain that the officer felt that he had no other option. That is the predictable result of poor training, possibly combined with poor hiring practices on the part of Officer Yanez's agency. People prone to panic should not be hired as cops. You got that right. But how do you test for that? Hall cops should be given quality force-on-force training so that they know how to handle incidents like this without reflexively firing their weapons in abject fear. Unfortunately, both problems are likely to persist in the face of ever-shrinking government budgets. Yeah, he's right. He's right on that. The cops are given less and less money, less and less personnel, and told to do more and more and more. In some cases, things that they really shouldn't be doing or don't need to be doing. What can you and I do to prevent innocent folks from being killed by poorly trained cops? It's a difficult problem to solve. I have a couple of words of advice for my readers who are CCW carriers and even more advice for my cop readers to follow. First, if you are lawfully armed and encounter a cop, you should follow your state's laws with regards to notification. Most of you are here in Michigan. We have the immediate disclosure law. So you immediately say, "Officer, I'm a CPL holder and I'm carrying today." That's all you need to say. You don't even have to say gun. "Officer, I'm a CPL holder and I'm carrying today." Make sure you state your notifications calmly. When you're nervous, cops get nervous. It's infectious. In all honesty, Mr. Castile's notification to Officer Yanez was virtually textbook. There was nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it at all. When you make this notification, your hand should be visible on the steering wheel, and you should not be moving it at all. Yeah, don't be reaching around under the seat, into the dash. Just keep your hands up there, 10 and 2 on the steering wheel, where they can be seen. Go ahead and turn on the dome light. So officers can see. Have the window rolled down as far down as you're comfortable. And don't make sudden moves. That goes for the people in the passenger compartment. They shouldn't be moving around either. Okay? Just put the officer at ease. Some of you might be thinking, well, we shouldn't have to assume that every police officer that comes to our door that pulls us over is inept or shouldn't be a police officer. But you know what? It's probably not a bad idea. That's just the way that it is. And so when a police officer comes up to me, I don't assume that a police officer is good at his job just because he's a cop. Do you assume that about a teacher, a school teacher, or a factory worker? We all know people who aren't good at their job. That's the way that it is. And no matter how many safeguards you put in place, no matter how tough the screening, you're going to get people in positions of authority who shouldn't be there. Look at some of our presidents, okay? It's the way that it is, and we all got to vote on that. It's sad, but it's probably safest for the armed citizen to assume that the cop will be poorly trained and might get scared at your notification. Do everything possible to keep things calm and avoid making any potentially threatening motions or statements. There's no guarantee that this will keep you safe, but it's the best advice I can provide. This is a long article. He goes on to talk about what police officers should do. I'm not going to go into that because the vast majority of you are not police officers. And I don't train police officers as a general rule. I train civilians. So for you folks, hey, when you get pulled over, especially at night, try to understand that police officers are looking for drunks. They're looking for people who've been out partying, and they know that 25% of the time when they pull you over for a busted brake light or a headlight that's out or a cracked windshield. I was pulled over a couple of years ago because one of the two license plate lights was out. And I knew darn well he wasn't pulling me over for that. He was pulling me over because he knows statistically 25% of the time he's going to end up finding, someone who's broken the law. Someone with outstanding warrants, someone with tickets, and that's what they're doing. They're trying to make an arrest. Quite frankly, some, cops get promoted based on, in part, by how many arrests they make, how many tickets they issue, things like that. It varies from department to department. So don't tell me that it's not true. I know that it is. We call those Bravo Sierra stops. Okay, I think most cops shouldn't be doing that. As a citizen, I'm thinking, don't mess with John Q. Public, okay? All right, so I've got a bumper that's sagging, or I've got a cracked windshield. You know why I have a cracked windshield? Because I can't afford to fix it. Okay, I remember 30 years ago, I was down on my luck. I drove these old beat-up cars, and I tell you, I got pulled over so much. And I was an honest, law-abiding citizen. I was just working hard, down on my luck, going through a divorce. But I'd get pulled over every couple of months because I couldn't fix the windshield, or the car just looked bad, or a tail light's out. And I was working 3 jobs. And I tell you, citizens don't like it when police pull someone over for a brake light and then they end up shooting them, especially when the circumstances are so iffy. I mean, this cop was acquitted. You can agree or disagree with the circumstances. Some people will say, well, yeah, guy shouldn't have, reached back like he was going for his gun. Others will say, well, okay, yeah, he made a mistake, but you didn't have to shoot the guy and kill him, in front of his, a little kid and his girlfriend. So it's always going to look bad. This was a tragedy at every single turn. I'm not responsible for what the cops do, okay? I can't influence the police, but I can influence armed citizens. You guys are my clientele. Civilian combat, that's what I'm all about. So for you guys, stay calm. Don't appear nervous. If the cop appears nervous, try to reassure them. Say, hey, I mean you no harm. I'm one of the good guys. Okay, my hands are up here. You can see them. I'm not going to do anything bad. I've got a clean record. It's just a tragedy. That's about all you can say about it. But if you do the right things in the right way as a concealed carrier, you're going to be okay. I want to caution you, but I don't want you to be scared to death of cops, because the vast majority of the cops that pull you over are going to do the right thing. Okay? The tendency, when you look at a case like this, is to overreact in the opposite direction and say, oh, okay, all cops are bad, cops are stupid, they're poorly trained, and that's usually not the case. But you do have to protect yourself against the occasional idiot. It's just the way that it is. Every once in a while, cops are stupid. Just like you and I are stupid. You're telling me you've never done anything stupid in your life? Yeah, you have. It probably didn't result in someone's death, but the stakes are bigger for police officers. So, I've got so many stories from my prior students. One student was pulled over in Chicago. The police officer came up, and as soon as my student informed him that he was a CPL holder and he was carrying today, the cop pulled out his gun, aimed it right at him, and ordered him out of the car, handcuffed him, threw him in the back of his squad car. And boy, that is just crazy. That's like it's automatic, right? He just assumed that he was a felon because he was in Illinois and he was carrying a gun. Well, my student hadn't broken any laws whatsoever. If he made a mistake, it was in actually informing the police officer that he was carrying, because he's thinking it's a Michigan law, so it must be an Illinois law. No, in Illinois, you only have to inform a police officer that you're carrying if they ask, are there any weapons inside the vehicle? Then you have to tell them. Prior to that, you do not. Okay, that's a law that's specific to Michigan. I think it's in 4 states nationwide. Long story short, the cop ended up apologizing to him after he realized that he'd screwed up. Thank God my student knew enough. He'd been trained to keep his hands on the wheel. Don't make sudden moves. And he did that. He followed his training, and he came out of that alive. But if he'd have reached back for his wallet, he might have got shot too. So just be careful. These things happen from time to time. They will always happen from time to time. Why? Because police officers are human, and humans make mistakes. That reminds me of the movie RoboCop. You guys remember that? Oh, I'm not sure we want to go down that road, though. Oh, well, hey, it looks like we are out of time for this segment. I've gone long. I apologize, not really. But when we come back, we'll be speaking with Sheriff Dar Leaf from Berry County in Michigan. We're going to be talking about church safety. We're going to be talking about active shooters, mass murderers, all kinds of good stuff, and about training. We have a 2-minute break now. While we are away, go ahead and check out firearmslegal.com/Midwest Tactical and see what FLP can do to protect you if you ever have to use your firearm, to protect the ones that you love. And also check out elitefirearms.us and see how Larry Jackson can help you choose the proper firearm for yourself and your family. Again, when we come back, Sheriff Dar Leaf from Berry County, Michigan, all about church safety and active shooters. This is Skip Coryell on Home Defense Show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
My name is C.J. Coryell. Welcome to the Home Defense Show with my dad, Skip Coryell. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back.
This is Skip Coryell from the Home Defense Show, and I want you to have the very best handgun that money can buy. And that's why we recommend you visit Larry Jackson at Elite Firearms and Training. As a concealed carry instructor, I see people every week out on the range with guns they can't shoot properly because they didn't know what to buy. That will never happen at Elite Firearms and Training. Larry Jackson will personally fit you with your very own personal defense pistol. So call Larry Jackson today at 616-299-8715 or visit elitefirearms.us.
This is Colonel Danny Gillum. I host Frontlines of Freedom, a weekly syndicated military talk radio show. One of my co-hosts is Skip Coryell, the host of this show. We cover things that impact military and veteran communities, and we do it from the veteran's perspective. The show is broadcast across the nation and is also available as a podcast on our website, frontlinesoffreedom.com. Please join Skip and me weekly on Frontlines of Freedom.
Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. This is your host, Skip Coryell. Boy, today we have got an incredible guest. This is Sheriff Dar Leaf from Berry County, Michigan. Dar, welcome to the Home Defense Show.
Hey, thanks for taking me back.
You are welcome. You're very welcome, Dar. Dar, you and I we go way, way back, a couple of decades, in fact. I don't even remember when I first met you, but I do recall that the first concealed carry class I ever took, I took from you. So it's way, way back there, probably 25 years ago would be my guess.
Oh, boy. That was back in 1999.
Oh, that's 19 years, 19, 20 years.
Yeah.
All right.
Because I will have 30 years at the Berry County Sheriff's Office this year.
Wow. That's a lot of years. How do you do it without getting older? I never figured that out.
Oh, boy, you get older and heavier.
I know.
They put you behind a desk, and they dump a bunch of paperwork on you, and you're going, wow, where do I start?
Yeah, I know. But, beating the streets.
Well, do you remember how we met?
Yeah. I don't remember. How did we meet?
Well, I was a school liaison officer.
Yeah.
And I started doing the summer program with the kids. And I wanted to do like an advanced hunter safety class. Mm-hmm. So I run into a guy by the name of Dave Stevens, who got arrested. Yeah. And Dave asked me to sign this petition to make the concealed carry here in Michigan as a shall issue rather than a may issue. Mm-hmm. And so I signed it, and then he handed me a bunch of blank ones and said, hey, see if any other deputies want to sign it. So in between shifts, I went and handed it around the locker room, and most of the guys signed it. And then I met you through Dave Stevens and Dave Neeson, and again, God bless his soul,
Yeah. Well, we've been in the trenches together, for the last 20 years.
You call it.
Well, that's, hey, I'm a Marine Corps veteran. There's not a huge difference, your military buddies and your law enforcement buddies, because you're going into combat. It's either civilian combat or military combat, and sometimes it feels the same.
Remember they had the gun boards.
Yeah.
And they kept bringing people in, violating the Open Meetings Act, bringing in people in one at a time. Mm-hmm. And you and Dave and I forgot who else was in your group held them accountable to that.
Yeah. Well, that was myself, Dave Neeson, and Dave Stevens. Ironically, I mean, Dave Neeson and Dave Stevens, they both died in 2018. I'm the only one left, so you might not want to get too close to me.
Lock your doors, and we'll feed you under the door.
Yeah, okay. All right. That sounds good. Well, all right, Dar, go ahead and tell us real briefly. You've got a special event coming up. When and what is it, and what does it entail?
Well, it's really a follow-up event. Last February, we had a Church Security Summit, and we had Thornapple Valley Church here in Berry County. They did an awesome job of helping us basically educate other churches and what's out there for security. And this is not just security for active shooter. This had everything to do with tornadoes, active shooter, medical, and so on. And we had a very, very good turnout. The response we got back from the public was outstanding, and we wanted to do a follow-up, and that's what we have going on here. This isn't so much a summit, it's more of a training session. Mm-hmm. And this time we're going to be breaking people out into groups and doing some training, like CPR and the defibrillator training. That's just one example. We had an attorney coming in that is going to talk about the legal issues.
Yeah, that would be Terry Johnson from Firearms Legal Protection is coming in, and he does an awesome job. Now this safety conference, this is on February 16, so boy, it's not too far off. 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And where is that being held, Dar?
The First Baptist Church of Middleville.
Not the Second Baptist Church, the First Baptist Church.
That is correct. And okay. It's on M37 north of Middleville here in Berry County.
Awesome. All right. And, boy, we've got a lot of stuff going on with that. I'm helping in the planning for that. and I will be teaching, an active shooter class. I don't really like that term, active shooter, because you and I, we're both active shooters. I mean, we shoot actively all the time, out on the range. So maybe we should find a different term for that. Maybe mass shooters or something different.
Murderer, mass murderer.
There you go,
That's
mass murderer.
Mass.
Why sugarcoat it, right?
Right.
All right. Well, Dar, let's talk, we're about halfway through this segment. Let's talk about church safety in general. What do you think people need to organize a church safety team? And do all churches even need a church safety team?
Well, the chances of your church actually getting hit by an active shooter are slim to none. It's more than likely going to be something like weather or medical or something like that. So you can adjust that team to whatever your needs are.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have people who attend your church that are firemen or police officers or work for the ambulances or ERs or something like that, take advantage of it and see if they're willing to step up to the plate. You're protected by Good Samaritan laws, so you're not going to be under the same jurisdiction, I should say, for, like, if you're working in the ER and you make a mess up. This is a Good Samaritan thing. You're off duty from your normal doctor duties or your normal paramedic duties. You need people who are willing to step up and do that.
Yeah. In Berry County, you offer a pretty good service through the sheriff's office, where you have a team.
Best. Yeah, I said we're the best.
Oh, yeah, you are the best. That's right. You have a team all set up, and if a church is located in Berry County, you pretty much, you do it for free, don't you?
Well, free as in we don't charge a church anything, but there is a cost to it. There's a cost of people's time. There's a cost of the food. I do take it out of my budget because it's important for me for these churches to be ready for these something bad that might happen to them.
According to my research, if you talk about, active shooting events, mass shooter events, they really are on the rise. We're still incredibly safe here in America, but in general, crime has gone down over the last 30 years. But one of the crimes that has gone up would be mass shooting events. Does that jive with your knowledge?
This year, I don't want to jinx myself. This year's been pretty good. But yes, if you look at it, if you follow the use of social media, as the use of social media went up, so did mass shootings.
Yeah, and the thing with mass shooters, there seems to be, just this profile of a mass shooter. They seem to be disturbed, troubled, whether they're young or whether they're old. They're angry, and they just want to take it out on somebody or get a big name for themselves or something like that. And I think social media is basically a game changer.
Social media was our enemy when it comes to this because it's gossip.
Yeah.
And that's what social media is. It's turned into this gossip station where you can say anything you want without somebody popping you in the mouth.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well 30 years ago you couldn't do that. You mouthed off to somebody, there was an immediate consequence.
Yes. Now the consequence is you sit back and you get cozy in your home and you go to bed that night and you wake up the next morning, you still have all your teeth.
Yes.
And the other person has calmed down, and so you don't have that immediate reaction, and you just nailed it on the head right there. But the mass shooters also, almost 100% of the time, will tell you somehow that they're going to do it.
Yeah.
Whether it be through the social media, whether it be a letter, email, they usually tell somebody they're going to do it, and it's one of those like, they're not going to do anything stupid like that.
Yeah.
And it's also somebody who seems to be withdrawn from society. Maybe they were pretty active in society, and all of a sudden they start getting withdrawn. Those are some of the characteristics that we see.
Well, yeah, I mean, you'll hear about these things on the news, and everyone always asks the question, why? Why did they do this? And everyone's always struggling to figure out. and there are certainly some indicators, but for the average person who's on Facebook, and someone comes on and they make a threat or something like that, where is the threshold? Where should the average, John Q. public citizen call the police and say, hey, I think we got a problem here?
Immediate. Let us sort it out.
Okay.
Let the guys who are trained, what to look for, let us sort it out. You may be making somebody very, very angry, but maybe you have taken that step to stop them from doing it.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of adds the element of accountability. If you go on Facebook, you do a rant and you threaten to kill somebody, and then, 3 hours later, deputies show up to your door, that's the legal equivalent of getting punched in the face, that happened 30, 40 years ago.
Exactly.
So, hey, that does make sense. That makes a lot of sense to me.
When I was a school liaison, that's when Columbine happened.
Oh, yeah.
And I went to this training seminar, and they had this guy from, I can't remember, it was Tennessee University. But anyways, he was a professor. And they started rattling off, and I think it was 32 characteristics to watch out for.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat there, and I'm kind of chuckling to myself. I'm going, hello, I'm a deputy, not a doctor. And so then I raised my hand, and I said, hey, I got a young man who's got about 30 of those 32. And he looked at me and said, you need to get him out of your school, and so on and so forth. Well, guess what? The young man didn't shoot up a school. He had problems in his life, but he didn't take that extra jump into that mass killing. And as far as I know, he's still around today. He hasn't done it yet.
Yeah. Yeah, and boy, you don't want to be wrong on something like that. So I guess the lesson there is better safe than sorry.
Right.
Well,
we have another professor we talked to a lot of presentations, and that's Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman. He's kind of the law enforcement's go-to guy on these issues.
Yeah.
He's got books out there like On Killing, Stop Teaching Our Kids to Kill. And he and his team predicted Columbine 10 years before it happened. And what he was telling everybody, it's what we're planning that is turning them into killers.
Mm-hmm.
The video games, the nasty movies. Look how graphic these movies are. Look how evil these acts that they're doing. And they put it on TV and in the movies, and, oh, man, it makes a great movie. Well, what he's saying is that there's a certain percentage of handle it. And you compare it to the pornography trade. There's people out there who can watch pornography and laugh and joke around about it. Then there's people who can't control their urges. And next thing you know, you got somebody molesting children and so on.
Yeah.
So it's kind of equivalent to that.
Well, Dar, I want to talk more about that cultural aspect, but we're out of time for this segment. So let's go ahead. Let's take a 2-minute break here. While we're away, listeners, go ahead and check out our sponsors, Firearms Legal Protection. Go to firearmslegal.com/Midwest Tactical, and then check out elitefirearms.us and see what Larry Jackson can do to help you choose the right firearm for your family. We'll be back in 2 minutes with more from Sheriff Dar Leaf, all about church safety. This is Skip Coryell on the Home Defense Show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
This is Felix Coryell on the Home Defense Show. Always use guns safely and wisely. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hey folks, I want to tell you about my book, Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book. More and more people across the country are seeing the dangers in society and are deciding to carry concealed to protect themselves and their families. My new book lays it out step by step. It'll teach you how to protect and defend the ones you love. Get the benefit of 17 years of teaching experience and a lifetime of training for this important role in society and in your family. You can get Civilian Combat real easy. Just go to Amazon.com, search on Skip Coryell Civilian Combat, and it'll pop right up there. Don't put it off any longer. Get Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book by yours truly, Skip Coryell.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if life was like the movies and the good guys always won? In today's world, if you're forced to use your firearm to protect yourself, you will need protection. Firearms Legal Protection is here for you. FLP provides you with seasoned, experienced attorneys that handle your criminal and civil matters as a result of you protecting yourself. FirearmsLegal.com provides its members with uncapped attorney's fees, bail bond protection, and coverage in all 50 states. We are not a reimbursement plan. You can access uncapped attorney's fees for as low as $10 a month. Firearms Legal members are provided with educational services, training videos, and access to our vast national attorney network. While you're protecting yourself, let Firearms Legal protect you.
Listen up, folks. This is important. There are plenty of legal protection services out there, but none will protect you as well as Firearms Legal Protection. This is the one I use and the only one I recommend. Visit firearmslegal.com/Midwest Tactical and protect your family now. Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. This is your host, Skip Coryell. We are speaking with Barry County Sheriff Dar Leaf, and he has an event coming up. It is a church safety conference on February 16 at the First Baptist Church of Middleville right here in Barry County. And now, Dar, we were talking about maybe some of the causes, some of the things you need to watch out for on social media. We were talking about some of the cultural things that have happened over the last 50 years or so. When do you think, when does your gut tell you? I know, you're not as old as I am, but, when did you see the change in our culture? Because it's been a progressive thing. It didn't happen overnight. What's happened in our culture to bring us to where we are right now with all these mass shooters?
Well, I hate to say it, but it's what we allow our children to see, what we allow them to read. And this, again, you got some children who can handle it, but you got that small little fraction of children who cannot.
Yeah.
And we're talking like less than 1%. And if you take 1% out of 320 million people in just this country alone, that's a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
So it's less than that 1%. And have to start looking at how I come from that latchkey generation right at the very the beginning of it. I graduated in 1983. And it's funny because when I was in high school, we had a shop class, and it was a big open room. One side was for woods. The other side was metal shop. Mm-hmm. We were allowed to take our shotguns right into school, uncased, walk on down the hallway, take our shotguns apart. We'd go to the wood side, resand them, and make a beautiful finished stock. Then we'd sand down our barrels. Yeah. And we had bluing salts in these long troughs that we had to heat them up. And we would dip our barrels into that bluing salts, and we could blue our own guns. Mm-hmm. That was in 80, 81, and 80, 81, 82, 83. And now all of a sudden, here's this little depiction of how evil guns are and how we need all this gun control. And I'm going, well, wait a minute. I was in high school. We had them in our not in our back windows, but we had them in our cases. And after school, we'd go out hunting. And nobody batted an eye. I carried mine on the school bus. When I got off the school bus, I put it in my locker, didn't need to check it into the office, and there was no mass shootings. Yeah. So what in culture has changed? And I remember these really didn't start happening until, I'm not trying to blame the Clintons on it, but in the Clinton years, that's when they really started rearing their ugly head. Mm-hmm. But I got Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman, his team predicted this was going to happen 10 years before we had the first one.
Wow. Well, I remember that I graduated in 1975, Martin, little tiny school, and it was the same way there. Mm-hmm. No one ever died. No one shot up the school. It seems like the smaller the community, the more accountability there is. When you're out in a rural area, if you do something wrong, everybody knows about it. And so, maybe we still had, people who were off their nut back then, but it was a small percentage, and everyone knew who they were, so you could watch out for them. You could avoid them. in the bigger cities.
Oh, we also had, one of the big changes we also had the movie theaters where you had to be 17 years old to watch an R-rated movie. Well, next thing you know, we have HBO, Cinemax, and all these cable companies coming in and putting those movies in everybody's homes.
Yeah.
And they were getting more and more graphic. Remember the Jason movies or the Halloween movies, how bloody they were.
Mm-hmm.
And what that does is it desensitizes people to that type of violence. It's like a sex offender, somebody who's going to be molesting children. One of the things we put in a search warrant is any pornography. Because what they'll do is Uncle Joe will sit there with the children, and they'll be watching pornography, and it desensitizes those kids. And next thing you know, it's going on into he's molesting these children.
Yeah.
And these children are thinking it's okay behavior. And that's not in all cases, don't get me wrong, but it's a desensitization that we've done on this violence.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think, at everyone's core, at one point in their life, I think they have to know what's right and what's wrong. And so they have to convince themselves that something that is black is white, is totally 180 degrees out of phase.
Well, it's predicted in the Bible, what was right will be wrong, what was wrong will be right.
Yeah.
And you look at the culture today, they're looking at taking guns away from people, but now we're legalizing all these drugs that we used to lock people up in prison for.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of a side issue, but you know what? This whole recreational marijuana thing that we just passed here in Michigan, I don't feel warm and fuzzy about that, but I can't really qualify it with, hard and fast statistics or anything like that. How do you feel about that from a law enforcement perspective? Does it make your job easier, or does it make it harder?
I don't know. Jury's still out on it yet. I was kind of going through a little shock when I first started working here at the Sheriff's Office back in '89, and the shock was I couldn't believe how many bigwigs were smoking dope, and it seemed to be quite a common occurrence. So is there really going to be that much of a change? I don't know. I was asked a while ago if there's going to be a decrease in prison population, and I'm sitting there going, no, I don't think so, because judges are looking at that as there's more room in prison now for the other crimes.
Oh, yeah.
So I really don't know if all that's going to happen or not.
Well, you know what? I think maybe in 6 months we will have you back on here, and we'll talk about that, because you'll have a little more experience with that. I want to get back to the safety conference, because I really want to push that on the show here. It's February 16th, First Baptist Church of Middleville, right on M37, north of Hastings. Now, it runs from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., and some of the speakers, they're going to be talking about first aid, CPR, and AED.
AED is automatic defibrillator training for the people out there who don't know what that acronym is. We're also going to have somebody in there talking from one of the insurance companies who insures churches. Mm-hmm. And he'll be talking about the stuff that they look at, the liabilities, something as simple as slipping on ice to how do you prepare for an active shooter, or why you should prepare for one, I should say.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have another person come in and talk about, hey, here's some policies and procedures that you can use. All you need to do is tweak them to fit your church, and we're ready to go. We have our 911 is going to be out there, and they have a program out there. It's through their Smart 911, and you take the layout of your church, mm-hmm. and you can put it into their computer, and we can have that as we're going en route to whatever type of emergency we have. And it's not just your church, it's the whole church land. So we can help them get game plans in to get ambulances in and out. So people out there in the parking lots, if you can have somebody out on the road flagging the ambulance down, that's very, very helpful. Or flag the police down, that's very, very helpful. Helping them establish plans. How do you start up a team? We've got Larry Jackson's to be talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
We also have another segment is going to be on weather. I call it Weather Watched. It's got a different name. Do you remember what that is?
No, I don't. Basically, you're watching for tornadoes and too much lightning, right. That kind of stuff.
Right. And what you can do is you can notify the people inside the church, say, hey, we got a tornado coming. Let's all get into the basement. And, just stuff like that that'll make us safer and more relaxed when we go into a church. Then firemen. We got firemen going to be talking about fire safety. And part of fire safety is if you got children and you're going into the main service and you take your children off into one of the classrooms, we don't want you running into the classroom to get your child because your child is already going to be out of the building. Well, that's going to cause quite a panic. Now you got people running in different directions, and our goal is trying to get people moved out in an orderly manner. And what kind of plan should you have after you get everybody out of the building? How are you going to reunite the families together?
Yeah,
and so on.
Yeah, parents can get a little bonkers when their kids are in danger and they can't get to them. It reminds me of these rock concerts where, there'll be an altercation of some type and people stampede the doors, and more people are killed in the stampede than they are, from like an active shooter.
Right.
Actually the ushers are real important members of any safety team. Because they're directing the traffic, they're going to get things, they're making phone calls, and boy, people think that church safety is, you just choose 2 or 3 guys, give them a gun, and you're covered. But it's a lot more than that. It's a lot more comprehensive.
Well, how many people do you train that don't take any additional training until their 5 years are up on their license?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, actually, Dar, the nationwide stat on that is less than 1% of all concealed carry holders actually go on to get any more training for the rest of their life.
Wow.
It's really, it's sad when you think about it. So you don't want to arm just anybody.
Yeah. I've been through years and years of training, and, since 1986 on up through today, and even as a sheriff, I'll go out and I'll go out and shoot with my guys. And we'll do the shoot, don't shoot. And, it'd be kind of embarrassing for having a chief law enforcement officer not knowing what to do, Now, I look at these people who go in there through a CPL class, and I see how they shot when they first started the training, and then I see how they shoot at the end of the training. Try and encourage them, hey, at least once a year, go have some fun and take an advanced class.
Yeah. And
people get tied up. They taking their kids back and forth to soccer and football and baseball practices and so on and so forth, and they never do it.
Dar, the thing is, we're so busy, and the chances of an active shooter coming up and invading the place are so slim that it's easy to just say, okay, yeah, I'll do that later. I mean, I get calls from people every month that say, I've been meaning to do this for 10 years now, and I'm just now getting around to it.
Well, good for them and shame on them.
Yes.
Hopefully you can get them hooked on it, too, because you have to know that firearm like you do knowing your automobile.
Yeah.
You have to know that thing inside and out. I just can't stress that enough.
Yeah.
And when you've been through my session, when I even talk about, all right, you've had a self-defense situation and you actually had to shoot somebody, what do you do next?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's part of our training. So if you guys want to take Skip's class there, that's part of what we teach you. What do you do next? That's very important, because police are coming and they've got guns.
Yes, absolutely. And that's one of the things that we will talk about in the active shooter breakout session that I'm doing at this February 16 event. Well, Dar, how much is this going to cost? People want to attend. How much is it going to cost them?
We are not charging the public to come on in and take this training.
Okay.
They're not saying $10, $50, nothing like that at the door, nothing. I'm using some of my budget money again. It's because I'm trying to prepare my county for an emergency, and it's not just an active shooter. It's the weather. It's everything. You ever think about it? You go to church for an hour, and all of a sudden you get this freezing rain.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of those instances we need to go out and they need somebody monitoring the weather.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'll take a life too. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so it's from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., February 16. How do people sign up for this event?
If you want to RSVP, you go to BCSO, and that's Berry County Sheriff's Office, BCSO Church Safety at gmail.com. So B as in Barry, C as in Charles, S as in Sheriff, O as in Office, Church Safety at gmail.com.
All right. And in that email, they just put their name, that you want to attend the event, and you'll probably reply to them and give them the website link where they can click and register.
Yeah, you'll see on the website there. You'll see first aid, CPR, AED, legal. Then there'll be another one: Smart 911, active shooter, severe weather, insurance, policy and procedures, and you'll pick the ones you want to go to.
Yeah, you'll be able to go to one in the morning and one in the afternoon, and these are 2.5-hour breakout training sessions. I'm very excited about the actual training, because last year we basically said, here's the intro, here's how you form a church safety team and why you should form a church safety team. Now we're actually training people how to do the job of a safety team, and I like that.
And I'll have vendors there, and because there'll be breakout sessions, and we want you to go out and talk to the vendors. We'll have vendors for communication, like Motorola companies. We'll have first aid companies in there, so you can help you build your first aid kits. We will have Rob from the lockdown company there, and that's how to lock down your doors. I mean, we'll have all kinds of vendors there, and we want you to get out and talk to them, get to know them, take their information, and we want you better prepared out there.
All right. Now, is this open to people outside of Berry County?
Yes. We've had 4 people from Detroit already sign up.
Well, and if anyone needs church safety, it's Detroit. Okay. Well, Dar, that is fantastic. Again, that email is bcsochurchsafety at gmail.com. I'll talk about that again in segment 4, and I will also put a link on my website as well. If you can't remember that, just skip Coriel at hotmail.com, and I'll send you the hot link. But again, February 16, 2019, First Baptist Church of Middleville. All right, Dar, thank you very, very much for all that you do for the county, keeping us safe and accountable, and especially for organizing this church safety conference.
Oh, you're welcome, and I thank you for the recognition.
All right. Okay, folks, we got a 2-minute break coming up. Check out our sponsors, firearmslegal.com/Midwest Tactical, and see how they can help protect you should you ever have to use your firearm in self-defense. And then go to elitefirearms.us, see what Larry Jackson can do to help you choose the firearm to protect your family. When we come back, we are going to have segment 4, and I will do the wrap-up, and I'll tell you what I really think. This is Skip Coriel and Home Defense Show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Welcome to my dad's Home Defense Radio show. You're gonna love it.
Hey folks, I want to tell you about my book, Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book. More and more people across the country are seeing the dangers in society and are deciding to carry concealed to protect themselves and their families. My new book lays it out step by step. It'll teach you how to protect and defend the ones you love. Get the benefit of 17 years of teaching experience and a lifetime of training for this important role in society and in your family. You can get Civilian Combat real easy. Just go to Amazon.com, search on Skip Coriel Civilian Combat, and it'll pop right up there. Don't put it off any longer. Get Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book by yours truly, Skip Coriel.
This is Colonel Danny Gillum. I host Frontlines of Freedom, a weekly syndicated military talk radio show. One of my co-hosts is Skip Coriel, the host of this show. We cover things that impact military and veteran communities, and we do it from the veteran's perspective. The show is broadcast across the nation and is also available as a podcast on our website, frontlinesoffreedom.com. Please join Skip and me weekly on Frontlines of Freedom.
This is Skip Coriel from the Home Defense Show, and I want you to have the very best handgun that money can buy. And that's why we recommend you visit Larry Jackson at Elite Firearms and Training. As a concealed carry instructor, I see people every week out on the range with guns they can't shoot properly because they didn't know what to buy. That will never happen at Elite Firearms and Training. Larry Jackson will personally fit you with your very own personal defense pistol. So call Larry Jackson today at 616-299-8715 or visit elitefirearms.us.
Skip, it's time for the Armed America Report. Take us there, man.
All of us here at Frontlines of Freedom want our listeners to get trained and get armed in that order. We fully support the right to keep and bear arms for all law-abiding families, and we encourage you to find out about the laws governing use of deadly force in your state and follow them to the letter. And of course, don't forget to follow the rules of safety and common sense whenever you're carrying a firearm to protect the ones you love. What's the story this week, Colonel?
Well, 2 armed robbers were no match for a pharmacist with a revolver in Maryland. The armed citizen was in his office and saw his employees raise their hands in the air. Then he saw the gunman and his cohort. The manager, who keeps a handgun on his desk, grabbed his gun and confronted the would-be thieves. Even though one pointed a rifle at him, the armed citizen resolutely defended his crew. He fired once, shocking the intruders into fleeing.
Thanks, Colonel. Before I question the pharmacist's choice of firearms, we first need to recognize that Maryland is not the most gun-friendly state. In fact, it's not very friendly at all toward guns and gun owners. This man chose a revolver to go up against a rifle. His revolver held either 5 or 6 rounds. We have no idea on the capacity of the rifle, but one thing we know for sure. The ballistics on a rifle will almost always provide more stopping power than a handgun due to increased velocity. And of course, the rifle will be more accurate than a short-barreled revolver. In a fight of this scenario, going up against multiple attackers wielding a rifle, I would have chosen one of 2 firearms. First, an AR-15 carbine boasting a 30-round magazine would have been a great choice. You'll have plenty of ammo and stopping power with increased accuracy. For the close-quarters combat aspect of this fight, you could also attach a laser or holographic sight, making for quicker target acquisition under stress. Unfortunately, the state of Maryland has banned any magazine capable of holding more than 10 rounds. It has also banned AR-15s with certain characteristics under most circumstances. My second choice would have been a short-barreled tactical shotgun, probably with double-aught buckshot or perhaps one of the excellent self-defense rounds like Hornady Critical Defense or PDX Defender. Both provide excellent stopping power. The only weakness is the lack of ammo capacity as they hold either 6 or 7 rounds, which is not always enough against multiple assailants. After all, no one ever came out of a gunfight saying, "Oh man, I just wish I'd had less ammo." But no matter what gun he used, you have to admit one thing. This pharmacist had the proper attitude and courage to take on superior numbers and superior firepower. Besides, it's not his fault the state of Maryland denied him the proper tools to protect himself. Here's my advice to all of you who live in states with restrictive gun laws. Either move to a different state or become a very accurate shot. After all, your life may depend on it.
Well said, my friend.
Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. This is your host, Skip Coryell. Love that Dar Leaf. Good sheriff, good man, a good friend. This safety conference that they're going to be having for churches, it's just such a great idea. I think it's going to be fantastic, even better than last year's. If you went last year, don't be afraid to come again this year because we're doing different stuff. You'll be learning the actual training. In my case, I'm teaching the active shooter class. You know, you've heard of the run, hide, fight, right? That's what Homeland Defense wants you to do. You know, try and run. If you can't run, then hide. If you can't hide and you're confronted, then go ahead and fight. We've got other people at this event who are teaching run, hide, fight. I'm going to focus on fight. What do you do when you can't run, when you can't hide? You know, how do you employ your firearm? Your firearm, improvised weapons. We'll talk about how do you take out the active shooter with your bare hands? How do you form a team? How do you organize? How do you take this guy down and stop the killing rampage? You know, it's where the rubber meets the road. It's going to be a hands-on, you know, getting yourself dirty kind of a class where you actually learn how to take this guy down. You'll learn swarming tactics, coordination, all of this stuff. You know, you learn about warrior mindset even more than you have in some of my other classes. It is really, really intense. And if you're serious about stopping active shooters, you need to take this class. How do you do it? Well, I just put a link on my website, on Midwest Tactical website, MWTAC.com, Michael Whiskey Tango Alpha Charlie.com, Michael Whiskey Tango Alpha Charlie.com, and click on the tab that says Church Safety Conference. And you can register for that class that I'll be teaching on active shooters right there from that link. It's going to be a good time. I'll be there. I'll be doing a home defense show podcast from the event. I'll also have all of my books out there. Hopefully, I'll have my newest book out there, the Jack Ruger Crime Adventure series, book number 1. Civilian combat, the God virus, all of that stuff. I'll have all that there. I'll be signing copies. Plus teaching the active shooter class and doing a podcast. How am I going to do all that? I don't know, but I will figure it out. But you got to go to this event. You're just going to love it. You're going to love Sheriff Dar Leaf. Go to MWTAC.com. Click on the Church Safety Conference link. You can register from there. You don't have to be from Berry County. You don't even have to be from Michigan, okay? Other people have asked, well, what if I'm not from a church? Who cares, right? I don't care if you're an atheist. You still have the right to keep and bear arms, and you have the right to defend yourself against an active shooter, right? So, hey, whether you're an atheist, whether you're, gay, straight, Democrat, Republican, liberal, far right, go ahead, take the class. The tools, the skills that you're going to learn, they're applicable to whoever you are or wherever you are. So, check it out one more time. Go to MWTAC.com, Michael Whiskey Tango Alpha Charlie.com, click on the Church Safety Conference link, and you will be able to register for that. It's free of charge. A whole day of free training. Bring your friends. It's going to be a really good time. Well, as usual, I have gone long. I'm starting to worry about myself. Maybe I'm becoming a politician. I'm so long-winded. I certainly hope not. Go to Amazon.com, check out Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book, and the God Virus Adventure Series. If you have any questions for me personally, go to skipcoriel@hotmail.com, send me out an email, and I will respond. Well, okay, folks, that about wraps it up for this week's episode of the Home Defense Show. Until next week, remember your purpose in life is to find something greater than yourself and serve it. Always remember, God, family, country, in that order. It's important how you live, but it's equally important how you die. Your family and the ones you love need your protection, so train, always train. Stay alert, stay alive. Until next week on the Home Defense Show, this is your host, Skip Coriel. God bless you, God bless your family, and God bless America.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Home Defense Show. Now, get out there and protect the ones you love. We'll see you next week with more of the best in home defense.
Bye-bye, boys! Have fun storming the castle!